night. It is the second day of November, and Doug Carter, our monthly guest, is standing by, and we are recording, we are streaming, and the chat room is waiting. So, counting down to Studio 8. Well, good evening, and welcome to a brand new week here at PJNet. .tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. I certainly am glad to be here, and it's going to be an exciting week. The first Monday of each month, we feature Doug Carter, who has become a friend of PJNet. He's part of the family, and he has a lot to share with us tonight. If you're watching this on social media, Twitter, or something like that, welcome. Glad to have you, and we'd like to invite you to join some friends who are waiting for you over at PJNet.tv in our live chat room, and you can watch the same thing right here. Now, what I have to do in order to bring you Doug is actually add him to the studio, which I did not do. I'm going to just adjust him on the fly as we welcome Doug Carter, who well, gosh, Doug, I know you've got a lot on your mind. You have so much on your mind, I'm not exactly sure the best way to bring you on board and introduce you, but you did a promo video today. I was glad to see that. The Great Reset. Now, I know what that is, or at least I know about it, but a lot of people may not even know what that is.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, Coach. The Great Reset is basically it's a new social contract. I'm hearing more about it in the news, especially from the World Economic Forum, from Klaus Schwab. He's a German professor. And that really took off this year. It's gaining a lot of popularity this year because of COVID. And the idea is that we're in a position where we can, I say we as a world community can create a new global government, a new social contract that affects every part of all of our lives all over the planet. The big question is what does this entail, and do we want it? Because right now they're not giving us an option. Tomorrow we probably got our last stand against this thing with the election. But if we lose this election, what I mean by that is if the election goes to the left, then the Great Reset is likely to happen. If the election goes to the right, there's going to be more resistance. And that's what we've seen all along, is resistance to this Great Reset. Before it was called the Great Reset, it was known by sustainable development. In fact, Klaus Schwab was on the United Nations. Klaus Schwab was on the United Nations Sustainable Development committees. So he's deep into this. He's been into it since the at least the early 1990s, and this is where we're at.
Doug, I can hear some people that are possibly thinking, this is more of that Illuminati Agenda 21 conspiracy talk. What makes you think it's not a conspiracy, that it's real?
Well, you can just go to the World Economic Forum website and look at the goals that they have. They're pretty blatant about it, that COVID-19 presents the opportunity to change the world, to create this new world. And they've got three main concerns that they're going after. And I think that people will recognize these if they hear them. So I'm going to just list out the three main components of this new social contract they're after. The first is fair outcomes. Kamala Harris was just mentioning this recently. And what does that mean? The fair outcomes. She's talking about raising taxes. There's going to be new regulations. There's going to be new fiscal policies, new trade agreements. They're going to create conditions for what they call a stakeholder economy. But what do we need to watch out for? What does all this mean? And how does it affect our families in our nation? Watch out for wealth taxes. It's no secret that the left has been after wealth taxes for quite some time. They're coming after them again, and they're going to come after them with a vengeance. So if you have been a good parent and you've been faithful to store up wealth for your children, better watch out because the government's coming after that.
They want their fair share.
What else? They want their fair share. And what they want is a global economic equilibrium. They want everybody to be on the same page. But in reality, you know how that works. You can give everybody back to equality, and it won't be long before the achievers outpace everybody else. But that's the first main concern. But the second main concern is they want to make investments towards something called sustainability and equality. Well, what does that mean? It means changing the entire social structure. It means for your human rights. It means taking away some of your rights so that somebody else can have them. For instance, you've got a right to go out and earn a job. But if somebody on another part of the world needs a job, they may just take away your industry and give it to that other nation, especially with America. America is considered one of the greatest consumers of the world's resources. They believe that Americans use way too many resources for our population, and they want to lower our standard of living drastically. They're not talking about just a little bit, Coach. They're talking about a lot. In fact, they're very happy that the COVID shutdown has forced us to adapt to a new way of living, a more what they call sustainable way of living. Well, what does that mean? Well, we've all been shut down. We haven't been able to travel as much as we have, or most of us haven't. And they enjoy that. They like that. They want us to get used to not using fossil fuels. When Joe Biden mentioned that he's going to eliminate fossil fuels, that's where this comes from. That's not a unique idea for him. So I think we need to be very vigilant in what's going on around us and what they're doing, because when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are saying these things about the science, not fiction, they're talking about formulating this new social contract with human rights based upon sustainable science and not God. So they're going to do away with our God-given rights. In fact, they're going to flip them on their head. There's a big push to, as part of this new social contract, to increase benefits towards non-traditional families. And why would they do that? And the reason is non-traditional families have lower birth rates.
Well, they can't reproduce.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you could get some that do have children and then they get together afterwards or whatever. But the idea is it's population control.
Yes. And
then you have to look a little deeper and realize that they're coming at this sustainability factor from a completely different viewpoint than most of us would have. In America, we have God-given inalienable rights that can't be taken away. But if you don't believe in God, if you think God is just fiction, where do your rights come from?
This leads to the humanistic worldview, where if there is no God, then something has to regulate our social web, so to speak. And
right.
They would look to, I presume, two sources, primarily science, but science by itself has no authority, but the government would institute the learned enlightenment of the scientific community, right, which has shown itself so stellar and exceptional in their forecasting.
Well, exactly, because they're dependent upon algorithms. They're dependent upon computer models that are based upon algorithms that somebody has to program. And it's just like a poll. You program the poll to get the results that you want. If you're going to commission the poll, you know what it's going to say. You just have to tweak it to make sure it says that. And that's exactly what's happening. There's the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is the organization that is creating the sustainable development models that's telling us that in a few years we're going to run out of the world's resources or we're going to have a catastrophic climate disaster. But then you've got the NIPCC, the Non-Governmental International Panel on Climate Change, who's saying, wait a minute, no, this is not happening. In fact, our data says something completely different. But you don't hear much about the NIPCC findings. And why is that? Because they're being censored.
It has been said that money talks and something else walks. The best argument that I have yet to hear against this climate disaster that is impending doom is that if the oceans rise, all beachfront property would be flooded. Banks are investing billions and billions of dollars financing beachfront development. Now, the bank doesn't care about God, Republican, Democrat, Socialist, or Communist. What they do care about is profit. Why would any bank, if there was an modicum of possibility that the bank was going to invest billions of dollars on property that would be underwater in 10 years and they would issue a 25-year mortgage, I don't think they would do it.
I don't think so either. I don't think the Obamas would buy beachfront property either. Especially after pushing this thing, that's crazy.
It is. Doug, can I ask?
But I think we also go ahead.
Well, Doug, you have you're actually you've been to seminary. You've got all the credentials and all that. And the thing that I remind myself when I see some of this, the fairy tale of we're going to guarantee a standard of living, it sounds really good. But I wonder sometimes that all of this stuff to breach the gap of income inequality and all that stuff, isn't the original 10 Commandments, there was one that must have been real important. There were only 10. Thou shalt not covet. Isn't the real motive covetousness?
It is, no doubt. They want to lower our standard of living, but in doing so, it's because they're taking our wealth away from us. So they're stealing to pull this off.
Because they coveted.
And because they coveted.
They covet.
No, thou shalt not steal.
Yeah, and
steal.
I can't help but think, and when you see it, they gin up all this hatred and strife, saying, the top 1% control 80% of the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you would just take a step back and say, my question would be, did they lawfully acquire that wealth? If they did, it's theirs.
Mm.
Now, if somebody who makes $20,000 a year unlawfully acquired that, they should be prosecuted. Or if you made $20 billion, you should be prosecuted if it's illegal.
Exactly. And think about all the bribes. Now, these same people are talking about changing the law structure of the world. They're talking about setting up this new infrastructure. I guess we've all heard of 5G by now. And the 5G network is literally going to connect us to everything. I mean, you can have your television hooked to your phone. You can have your refrigerator hooked to your phone. You can have your mattress hooked to your phone. And guess what else you got hooked to your phone? You've got your digital bank, your digital wallet in your phone. You got your healthcare records in your phone. They want to digitize your entire identity. Now, why would they want to do that? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but you know that they want to eliminate any opposition to their worldview. They want to create this new social contract based upon humanism. And humanism is antithetical to the biblical worldview. And in order to stamp out the biblical worldview, you need to identify those who hold it. And then you can systematically cancel them from the culture. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of what they're doing now. I'm in the teaching profession, and we're doing training, staff development training. And these staff development trainings include character development and training us to be more sensitive to other people's views, microaggressions, and it's downplaying our own. It's basically telling us, hey, you got to change the way you think and act, or there's no place for you here. And all teachers need to be, All teachers need to be aware of that because it's coming. It's in Education 2030. Education 2030 is the way to get this sustainable development model, this great reset model in the schools, into the minds, into the hearts of the children, and into society, and then society is transformed. These schools are brainwashing our children, and we don't even realize how bad it is.
Doug, we had this conversation the other day, and I don't think time will permit us to really shell this out the way it needs to be. But when you have a movement such as this, there's got to be somebody at the core. So the core players, what is their interest in this? And the key question is this: is this a group of people who sincerely believe that this will yield a better world for everybody, or are they just seeking power?
Coach, we've talked about this, and my gut feeling is it's just all about power. On the outside, it sounds great that they're looking out for the interest of everybody else, but they're corrupt. They're not telling us, they're not being honest with us about what they're doing, what their plans are. They're not giving us a choice. This is what it's going to be. We're going to do it anyway.
I think there's some wisdom and there's some insight in what you just said. Is this is not something we're going to vote on.
Well, tomorrow we've got a chance to vote against it.
They're not going to put out a referendum. Do you want to do this? I mean,
no, they're not.
It's being pretty well forced upon us. They do talk about this utopian new world order, I guess, but they don't tell you. They tell you what you're going to gain if their little dream can come true, but they're not telling you what you're going to give up.
It's just like the Garden of Eden. It's the same pattern that Satan had in the Garden of Eden. Here, take this fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and eat it. It'll make you wise. It'll make you godlike. And you'll know good and evil. And a social contract regulates good and evil in a society.
Where does the end times fit in this? Have you given that any thought?
I'm giving it a lot of thought. So the book of Daniel talks about what to expect when the Antichrist comes on the scene. And the Antichrist is going to come on with a covenant of peace and prosperity. Now here's the thing. Sustainable development is a covenant for peace and prosperity for everyone on the planet. All you have to do is read pages 1 and 2 of Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
Now that's not found on the Alex Jones website.
No, but it's found on the United Nations website. Okay. You can go directly to the United Nations and find this. Okay. United Nations, Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
Okay. But wrap it up. I wanted to talk a couple minutes. We only got a couple minutes, but you're doing some video work. But if you want to wrap it up, do that. But tell us about some of the ideas you've got video-wise coming up.
Oh, lots of ideas. I think I want to go into doing a lot of short videos, a lot of one single topic videos, less than a minute, just to get some ideas out there, because I come across lots of new ideas such as the Great Reset. Most people have never heard of this. There's tons of them out there, and I want to get these ideas out. And the only way I can do it in a very meaningful way, in a timely way, is to do them, just shotgun them out there. So we're going to walk around and shoot some videos, short ones, and get them edited and get them out there and just see what happens. I just want to do a lot of trial and error.
Well, Doug, I think you're onto something, because the last video you did, it was like a 2-minute video, and we can improve on it. But there seems to be an appetite for this, because it was north of 1,100 views last time I checked. When's the last time you had anything get 1,100 views?
That never happens for me, Coach.
That would be never.
I go on Instagram and I'll get 5 views. Twitter does a little better, but I think captioning is going to really help. I found out how to go through some apps and add captioning automatically and then go back and tweak it. most people, 80 something percent or more, will watch videos without the volume on. So that's one way, and it helps with the algorithm too. Get your captioning in there. There's the idea of accessibility for handicapped people,
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
the algorithms are geared towards that.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, we'll be talking more about that, but I did just want to congratulate you on that video, Doug. It was well received, and I'm just glad to see you doing it. And I want everybody to, Doug, you are pioneering, you are trailblazing new inroads, and hopefully we'll be able to use those to kind of move the needle out there, because it's kind of going the wrong way.
I think that we're going to find something that works, and we'll find something that a lot of people can jump on board with. And you saw that when we did the first video together. When we did that first video together, I was the worst person in the building. I hated it. I didn't want to do it, but now I've gotten more comfortable with it, and it's the way to get the message out. And that's what we're really trying to do. And I think if Christians will bond together, let their voices be heard, and magnify each other's voices, then the whole body can rise up as one mind in Christ. We feed off of each other as iron sharpens iron, one sharpens another. And as we're feeding off each other, I think that the whole body will rise up, and we can see a revival. It's happening already.
I'm proud of you, Doug. Keep doing what you're doing. Can't wait to hear more. And we'll do it again about this time next month. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you, Coach.
Doug Carter right here on pjnet.tv. Welcome. Wanted to give a little wave to the folks out there from the orbiting cameras high atop the Eagle's Nest studio here at pjnet.tv. What an interesting fellow. What a great guy to have on the team, Doug Carter. And he's here every Monday night from 9 p.m. Eastern. But no, it doesn't end there. We are going to continue. Casper's Take is coming up next. It'll be the final Casper's Take before the election, and I'm curious and eager to hear what he will share with us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Folks, I've got to make preparations for that. So before I leave, I would like to challenge you to ask yourself two serious questions. First, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And secondly, when was that? With all that we've heard tonight and more of what we will be hearing in the near future, I hope that none of us will ever be satisfied with either answer.